things you should know about this reading. I'll try and be brief. It's hot. The first thing is the number 12. Did you notice that jumping out? The little girl who actually dies and is raised from death is 12 years old, and the woman's hemorrhage lasted for 12 years. That reminds us that this is a story about the coming of the new age. The hearers of this story would get that. We need a little reminder that this is 12 tribes of Israel, so the whole family of the Israelites will be welcoming a new age. And with Jesus' advent on earth, that means that Jesus is bringing in the new age. One of the primary symbols of this new age, or happenings, it's not just a symbol, is this healing. Healings are going to come with the new age. The other thing that comes with the new age is inclusion. So that's the basic outline of what's happening here, but I'll help you see where this actually happens in the reading itself. It is presented as if this is a church service, that we are the followers of Jesus, that meet him at the shore of Galilee, where he comes out of the boat, and we follow him towards the temple, where this leader of the temple is leading the group to see if Jesus can heal his daughter. So the reason we are here is for healing. That's the same with us in church. We come here to be healed. What is the most healing thing in our service? Well, there's a couple of things, but having our sins forgiven is a powerful one. And when our sins are forgiven, that is a symbol that we are a community, and our communal sins of not inviting the stranger to be part of us, of not doing enough to feed the poor or whatever, that we are forgiven communally. The woman that appears in the middle of this story is interrupting the healing of the little girl. She is intruding herself, who is unclean because of this discharge. She's pushing into the middle of the people that have pushed her out to the outside. She doesn't belong with the in-group. She belongs on the edges until she stops bleeding, and she's done everything possible to stop bleeding. She's gone to all the doctors, read all the health magazines, tried all the herbs and concoctions, and she's getting worse instead of better. She desperately injects herself into that crowd and goes behind Jesus, following right behind him, repeating, "I must only touch the hem of his robe and I will be healed. I must only touch the hem of his robe and I will be healed." She's in a trance. She touches the hem of his cloak, and what happens? Instantly, she feels healed, and that's important. Some of us have had the experience of the flu leaving us all at once and we feel better. That feeling is what she was full of, and she didn't so much back up to hide as the crowd just kept moving. And Jesus whips around just as fast and said, "Who touched my clothes?" Well, we were just told that the crowd is pushing around him so hard, they're all touching him. It's this little body mass, an amoeba of bodies moving around. And how can they tell who touched him? But the woman herself hears his voice, and she says, "I gotta go and tell the truth." More power to her. The excluded woman comes right up to Jesus, falls on her knees, bows down before him, and tells him everything that she did. She tells him how she pushed herself in and touched his robe, and as soon as she touched his robe, she was healed. And Jesus said to her, "Not that you're polluted and get out of here." He said, "Your faith has made you well. You are well because you touched me." In other words, he forgives her sins. When we come to that part of our service, when we say the confession and our sins are forgiven, this woman is acting out for us. That is what we're doing. Coming in here all broken, needing healing. She touches the back of his robe, and we do that communally. Touching Jesus when we touch each other, which we do at the passing of the peace. In Mark, touching is incredibly important. He mentions touching more than any other gospel writer, and he has more healings than any other gospel writer. So we get back to the fact that Jesus took so long healing this woman that now the little girl is dead and it's her fault. And they could say that. They're very upset with him that he hasn't gotten there yet. And they tell him so by saying she's dead. There's no use bothering him anymore. And they're saying it with aggression and anger. They're pissed off. And Jesus says, do not worry, she's sleeping, but only believe. And he says this to Jairus, the girl's father. So off he goes with Peter, James, and John, his inner three, and goes with Jairus and his wife into the little girl's room, touches her, takes her hand, just like he took Peter's mother-in-law's hand, the same thing. And as he touches her, she is healed. And he pulls her up and she starts walking around the room. And he says what we say at communion time. We need something to eat. Give us something to eat. First comes the forgiveness of sins. Then comes the communion. And then we sing about the coming of the new age because Jesus is here and we are part of that new age. Are we doing enough as a community to pull in those on the margins? No. Are we doing enough to change the way this country is going and to speak our piece with Christ in our heart, with everything that we say? Are we working for peace hard enough? No, we never are. But we need to take a special care to know that we come in with this burden of guilt and that we need to be forgiven. And then somebody get us something to eat, would you?